Today we have with us Catherine DeWitt, Director of Java Support, Bernard Traversat, Vice President of Software Development for the Java Platform Group, Sean Smith, Senior Director of Product Management for the Oracle Labs GraalVM project, and myself, Aurelio Garcia Ribeiro, Senior Director of Product Management for the Java Platform Group. On September 14th, we announced the release of JDK 17. We covered the features that were delivered with JDK 17, and we made a couple of announcements. We announced that the release schedule has changed. So instead of having an LTS every 3 years, we have proposed to have an LTS every 2 years. Now, this means that the next LTS release will be JDK 21 in September of 2023. The other announcement was a change in the license terms. With JDK 17, we have announced that we will release JDK under a license that will allow everybody to use it in production at no cost for at least 1 year after the release of the next LTS version. Now, as you can imagine, we've gotten a bunch of questions, so we decided to record this webinar for you. So we've gotten some questions ahead of the webinar, and we'd like to address those first. One that I got was, can I use JDK 17 at no cost to do fill in the blanks? I got many variations of those. So JDK 17, subject to the conditions of the license, can be used free for all users, even commercial and production use. Another question that we got is whether we plan to release older versions under the new license at some point in the future. And the answer to that is that the new license applies to new releases only. It is meant to encourage the adoption of the newer versions of Java. Catherine, I think we got a question also for you for support.
Absolutely. So this is a question that I've gotten fairly frequently from since the release, which is, can I file a support ticket for JDK if I'm using it under the free license? And the answer is no. Java support is not available under the new license for JDK 17. You can certainly file a report at java.com and it will be reviewed, but you won't be able to engage directly with support, nor will you be able to escalate the issue. If your issue requires a fix and we're able to complete that fix, you will be able to get access to it when it's added to an upcoming public release. But if you're a Java subscription customer, you'll be able to file support requests and work directly with my team. You also may be able to get an early build with a fix, even if the next planned update is months away.
Thank you, Catherine. Bernard, there were a couple of questions about JMS, right?
Yes. So as you know, Aurelio, we introduced the Java Management Service a few months ago. And so I get a question, what this service is all about. So the Java Management Service, or JMS, is an OCI cloud service that aims to provide and to address the complexity and cost of managing Java deployment at scale for our enterprise customers. Many enterprises have hundreds of thousands of employees, each with laptop, desktop. And if you add all the server instances on premise or in the cloud, each system having potentially multiple Java versions installed, on a daily basis, enterprise need to manage close to 1 million or more Java installation. This is extremely complex, costly, and error-prone, with the high security concern to leave some unpatched installations. So JMS aims to provide a single pane of glass for managing Java, providing a broad set of capabilities around inventory, insight, and tuning. On the inventory side, JMS will discover all Java versions that are installed, laptop, desktop, on-premise, or on the cloud, which versions are effectively in use, and by which applications. On the inside, JMS intends to provide more detailed information on security, performance, and compliance. Are all my Java versions up to date and secure? Then, we intend also, as part of tuning, to collect, and analyzing profiling data to offer, recommendations on performance for the JVM. JMS was initially targeted for Linux Server, and so we are very pleased to announce today that we are adding support for Windows Desktop and server support as well as a number of improvements to reduce the complexity to configure the JMS service. I also, got these questions, which is around what's the availability of GMS, and do I need a license to use GMS? So first, GMS is available today on 22 of the OCI data center all around the world, and you get access to GMS under the Observability and Management OCI console tab. Regarding to the license questions, the Java Management Service is offered at no additional cost to our Java SE subscription customers, as well as when managing workload running on OCI.
Thank you, Bernard. Now, Sean, I believe there were also a few questions about GraalVM.
Let me look them up here. So I got a couple. The first is, what's the impact of the introduction of this new license for Oracle JDK on GraalVM Enterprise? And that's a pretty obvious question, because we talked about Oracle JDK and not about GraalVM in this context, and there's actually no change. So this license change is just for Oracle JDK. GraalVM Enterprise remains free for download under the terms of the Oracle Technology license, so OTN license, for development tests, but not for production workloads. So that's a little bit different. And if you're looking for GraalVM Enterprise for production, it's included in the Java SE subscription as entitlement, which means basically it's bundled as part of the subscription. So if you're looking for production deployment with GraalVM Enterprise, you do need a Java SE subscription. Otherwise, it's free for dev test demo. And the other question, which is actually probably the bigger ones, is does GraalVM Native Image support Java 17? So if you haven't heard of GraalVM Native Image, it's basically a ahead-of-time compilation for these Java bytecodes, compiles into native machine code, links them with the appropriate libraries. So you can build small self-contained executables from your Java application. And yes, the support for 17 is coming in GraalVM 21.3. So GraalVM itself is built on Oracle JDK. So we're about a month behind in terms of being downstream. So on October 19th, we'll ship 21.3. That will include the Java 17 support, including for native image. So you can use all the new features like records, text blocks. I mean, I'm really excited about the records because building microservices that are talking over JSON, passing back just basically data, the records make your code really, really less verbose, which is great. So the other thing about Java 17 support in GraalVM is that it's a big jump. So we had support for 11 and we're going back to 17. So we didn't release support for 12, 13, 14, 15, et cetera, because we focused on the LTS releases. So unlike Java, which has a 6-month cycle, we're focused on the LTS releases. So this is the first time that GraalVM users will get access to the full set of features, which you had pointed out there earlier that have happened since 12. So that's the couple I have anyway.
Thank you. And now we hope that while we were playing this, they had some questions coming in, and we will switch to the live portion to answer those questions. So as we hoped for, we've received some questions via the chat widget while we were playing the recorded portion. I believe this first one, I'm going to take myself. We have an expected question. Since JDK 17 and later are free to use in production, why would one purchase a Java SE subscription now instead of just using JDK 17 gratis? So in no order in particular, you may want to get a subscription to get access to the best Java support in the world. So if you need Catherine's help, you will need to have a subscription. Some customers may be fine running software as is, but others, especially if you're in a regulated industry that requires running on supported software, may want to have the option of having support. You also get access to BPR releases. Those are bundle patch releases that deliver fixes that are critical to customers faster than what it's offered if you just wait for the next CPU. We have some additional tools and features like GraalVM Enterprise, Java Management Service, or Advanced Management Console that can make a lot of difference and make the deploying or managing a large number of applications much easier. We also expect that even though you may be running some applications on JDK 17, there may be others that are not yet ready to go to JDK 17 because some of the libraries that they use aren't yet migrated. Or perhaps you don't want a subscription now, but you may want to have a subscription in the future when you decide to stay on 17 for longer. Here's another one that I guess it's a bit subjective. Bernard, maybe you want to take this one. What is the most compelling feature that would help me justify adopting JDK 17?
Yes, sure, Aurelio. As you know, JDK 17 is packed with a bunch of very compelling features, but of course, it's going to depend on where you are coming from. If you are coming from JDK 16 and you are developing a new application, it's probably still class, which will provide very compelling capabilities to developer to constrain their interfaces. If you are coming from JDK 11, the prior LTS, we have a list that will say that the new Mac OS ARM64 support, M1. I think something is going to be very compelling to our developers. We also added the new enhanced random number generators, something that will give you better capabilities to produce random number generations, as well as since Apple decided to deprecate OpenGL on the macOS, we have a new implementations and the rendering pipeline for the macOS. Something that clearly I would want our developers to try and use. But also I would mention that there is also the questions of what are you doing? I mean, if you are writing an applications, you will want basically to use some of the new language features that I mentioned, some of the new APIs and tools. And for example, in terms of new language features, we are setting up the preview for the pattern matching for Switch, starting as an incubator, the foreign functions and memory API, and then, not the least, the new vector API that, I think is going to be very compelling, for people that are building ML and AI applications. And finally, if you are running, existing applications, you're going to get, a lot of, JVM, improvements around less memory usage, the VM being more efficient, and something that you're going to get, for free by just updating to JDK 17. And then also I may want to mention from a deployment standpoint, we are putting, better control for deserializations, which, we know is, potential security, concern. And so we want, our developers to, better secure their deployments by using these new deserialization filter capabilities.
Thank you, Bernard. I got one here that sounds like this is your wheelhouse, Catherine. Can I get help to upgrade to JDK 17?
Great, that's a great question. So if you have a Java subscription, the Java support team will definitely help you, assist you upgrading to JDK 17. So all you need to do is go into My Oracle Support and submit a ticket, and a Java support engineer will answer any questions, provide direction, and recommend documentation for you. So pretty straightforward question.
Sean, this one is for you. Does GraalVM add any additional features beyond those available on Java 17?
Question, no. It doesn't add additional features. So it's Java 17, of course. So the GraalVM project is focused on compiler technology, not on language features. That's the provenance of the OpenJDK project, language definition. So GraalVM is focused on compiler. So what you get in the in GraalVM Enterprise is Oracle JDK with the Graal compiler, the JIT compiler plugged in by default, which basically replaces the C2 compiler, which is still there, and you can turn it on, you can flip back and forth, but it's by default it's the Graal compiler. So it's just hotspot with a different compiler. So it's a pretty simple experience for users to try. The only things that are not Java language features, I mentioned before, native image in the recorded section. So GraalVM native image is only available as part of the GraalVM Enterprise download. And actually the other thing is other languages. So non-JVM native languages, the support in GraalVM for running and compiling native machine code, other languages like JavaScript, for example, right? So that's it. Those are the same thing. So basically, it's JDK. It's 17.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, I guess either Catherine or Bernard. Bernard, perhaps you want to take this one. How easy is it going to be to migrate from JDK 11 to JDK 17?
Yes, sure, Aurelio. as you know, the transition from 8 to 11, was a little bit more challenging, because we wanted to kind of, protect the platform and set up some, encapsulations for, internal APIs, which, will give us, a better platform and easier migrations for our customers moving forward. But, one of the things that has been, a tremendous help, for the migration between 8 and 11 is since we have introduced the 6-month release cadence, and we have been working, very closely with all the IDE tool vendors, some of the main third-party open source projects to kind of get the adoptions of the 6-month releases. And so I'm very pleased, today to be able to say that, by the time we released JDK 17, all the major IDE vendors were already supporting all the new Java 17, features. At the same time, we've been working also with some of the main third-party libraries also were supporting JDK 17 by the time we released, 17. So overall, I think, the 6-month release, having the abilities for, third-party, developers to get access to early access of the 6-month release, I enable them to uptake, those new language features, those new capabilities that we have, which mean that, we clearly expect now that the migration path for people that are on 11 to 17 is going to be a much, smoother, and, will enable those developers to be able to take advantage of all the new capabilities that we are delivering in JDK 17.
Thank you. Now I got this one, there's a question, why should I update or upgrade at all? I think I covered this one during my JMS session. Some people want to know, okay, I wrote an application back in 11.05. Why not just leave it in 11.05 forever? And usually I've tried to differentiate between updating, applying the patch of the same release, so 11.05 to 11.06 to 11.07 and so on and so forth, and upgrading, which I define as going from, say, 11 to 17. So you don't want to stay on the 11.05. You should, you should always update to the next version of the same LTS. And the reason for that is the updates fix security vulnerabilities. So if there's a security vulnerability in 11.05, we may address it in 11.06, then in 11.07. If you remain in that old version, you're leaving your system exposed and vulnerable. So anybody that figures out that you're using that old version that has not received updates may be able to target those vulnerabilities. There are also some very small performance improvements between update releases. The performance improvement between any two updates is probably really, really small, but they do add up. So over time, they make a difference. And perhaps the most compelling reason for updating is improvements in the cryptographic algorithms. So if you've been following the news, we have, for example, SSL, which used to be the most secure algorithm available to connect between computers. That has been deprecated and superseded a long time ago. If you have an old version of Java, it may default to using SSL. In later updates, we defaulted to using TLS. And in some later updates, we turned off SSL. So it's important to keep updating. Now, as to why would I upgrade? What would I go from, say, 11 to 17? That's a harder, that's not such a no-brainer. You should think about whether you should upgrade or not. And you should upgrade if the version that you're running on is approaching end of life. So for example, if you're running with JDK 7 today, since you only have until June of 2022, you should be upgrading to 8 or 11. You should also upgrade if there is some significant improvement in the program in a part that you're using, okay? So that's why you should update or upgrade. Now, I've got another one for Catherine. I think we've answered this one, but we keep getting this question. Is the free license for JDK 17 available for other releases?
No, the free license is not available for other releases. It's only available for JDK 17 and future releases.
Okay, I see Bernard, there's this question about change. Okay, yeah, this is a good question. Are there other changes not listed in the JEPs that are worth looking at? And they didn't specify if they mean only from 15 to 16. So I guess the floor is yours.
Yeah, as you know, so we use the JEP process, which is a Java enhancements process, to kind of capture the very large features. And so, when people are kind of looking at a release, they tend to be some focus around those very large features. But, behind the curtain, I can tell you that there are thousands and thousands of fixes, minor enhancements, small performance improvement, in some case, larger performance improvement that are being delivered, as part of, every 6 months release and as part of 17, as well. And, clearly, there are, a lot of detail here. We are trying, as part of the release note to describe, all the change of relevance to our developers. So I certainly, will encourage, everybody to go and spend some time just to go through the release note to figure out, if there is something of interest to their specific service. But, one of my favorite is a new filter in the what's new and what has been deprecated in the JavaDoc API documentations. We are constantly trying to, improve our documentations, make it easier to be able to pinpoint to developers, what is new or what is being changed. So, we now have a filter capabilities where you can go, and looking at the, set of APIs and be able to get, that type of information in a much easier manner that you were able to do it in the past.
Thank you. Now, okay, this one I see is the change to the LTS cycle to 2 years instead of 3, an admission that 3 years was too long. Yeah, no, I'm going to say, I'll take that one. No, 3 years was about right for the time between the first 2 LTS releases, right? When we first proposed the changes, it was unclear if the whole ecosystem was going to be able to accept faster releases and whether they were going to adopt them at a reasonable pace. For those of you that remember these, when JDK 8 came out, it took several months to have a major IDE support all of the features that came along. So we weren't sure if a faster cadence was going to be something that the ecosystem could accept. Now, with having 3 years worth of information behind us, we see, for example, that IDEs and well-maintained libraries have adopted very nicely and are now supporting versions even before they are released. So for those that kept track, what we released as JDK 17 was the same build that we made available in early access 5 weeks before GA. So that's how stable we've gotten, and the ecosystem has taken notice of this. So now with this new information, which wasn't available in 2017, the 2-year cadence makes more sense. And I see we have another question, possibly for Catherine. We have somebody asking, I'm generalizing this one, but they're saying, can you tell us about whether the following Oracle product supports JDK 17? And Catherine, you want to take that?
Sure. So that depends upon that Oracle product. So each Oracle product, certainly the Java support team supports all Oracle products with Java. It does not require a subscription. It does, but the decisions about the use of Java 17 in that product depends upon that particular product team. So we collaborate and work very, very closely with the other Java support teams and the other Java application teams to ensure that they have everything they need to support their customers on whatever version of Java they have in use.
Thank you. We have only 3 minutes. I got another one, which is, let's see, only now do we see a large number of people going from JDK 8 to JDK 11. How long do you think it will take for people to adopt JDK 17 as the most common version? Well, I think Bernard covered some when his answer about how easy will it be to go from one to another, right? The long pole for migrating is usually the tools and the libraries, right? If all you have is your own Java code, you can probably just take it and run it on 17 and it'll work just fine. But if you have a large complex application, you probably rely on a bunch of third-party libraries, and you're going to have to wait until those libraries are certified with JDK 17, right? Now, I did say that the speed at which they have been adopting new version has increased dramatically. But still, you must factor that some of these libraries build on each other. So it's, library A cannot start migrating until library B has completed. With that, it will probably be 12 to 14 months, 12 to 24 months, I'm sorry, is my guess, before we see a large number of complex ecosystems running JDK 17 in production, right? I do expect, though, that the adoption of new releases for new projects and new code would be much faster than that, okay? And I believe we're on top of the hour. So thank you for joining us. Thank you.